All right, then 80% win rate strategy. I'll give you a quick explanation of what it is, and then I'll basically go and show you some examples I've recently took on NQ, which have been absolute bangers. I've had a really good time trading this strategy over the past 7 or 8 months now. As I said, I've got around an 80% win rate when you count the break-evens as well. And overall, this strategy has done absolutely amazingly for me. So please do like and subscribe, leave a comment, get involved with the other videos as well. And also, if you want to get signals and alerts for this, you can get them in the description below. So basically, the strategy is very simple. It's basically accumulation, manipulation, distribution. Accumulation when the market's going sideways like this. Manipulation, where you come down and sweep a level of liquidity. And then distribution, where once your liquidity is swept, you're looking to get back in as the price goes back in the original direction like this, and usually continues to the upside as we are near all-time highs for NQ. You do tend to have the all-time highs as being a pretty clear target and draw for price action a lot of the time. As you can see recently, because we've been at all-time highs, a lot of the time price just runs back up to all-time highs. So it's a good place to target for runners to the upside. But basically, this is the strategy. I'm just looking to get in on a nice inverted fair value gap back to the upside on the way back up. So you've got your accumulation doing something like this. You get your manipulation down, and then you're basically looking to enter as you invert a fair value gap back to the upside like this. Really easy strategy. And then my entry and exit models are basically you target a 1-for-1 for your first take profit. Once this gets hit, you close half of the position, move your stop to break even on the rest, and then I'll usually have one runner which targets halfway up the V shape, and then a final runner which targets the top of the V shape or all-time highs, depending on the structure that we've formed. And a stop loss would be a manual close if we close back below this inverted fair value gap like this. And this is the model. It's very simple. And you'll notice if we look at the charts now how many times this actually plays out on the charts. Interestingly enough, right now we do actually have a liquidity sweep of this low here, this Asia low for NQ right now, which could potentially give us a trade. There's no clear and obvious fair value gap here, sadly, but this potentially could have been a good trade. When there's no obvious fair value gap, I usually just wait for a larger time frame gap, like maybe this 5-minute gap here. For example, if we came down here, you can see we've kind of come down here. We've got an accumulation area where we're kind of going sideways here. And then we've come down, we've swept liquidity on this low. And then I'd be looking for a fair value gap back to the upside here. If we close back above this like this, targeting a 1-for-1. This is what I'd be looking for. Back to the upside if we got it. That would be pretty interesting. I'll put an alert on this just in case we do get that at some point today. Overall, NQ right now is pretty much all-time highs, I think. Yeah, as you can see here, we had that big drop last week because of all the tariffs going into place that Friday. But since then, last week, we pretty much recovered the entire move, this big V shape back to the upside. And then since then, really, we've just been looking for longs, let's say. I do take shorts on this, but you have to be really far away from all-time highs because generally speaking, the bias is always bullish when you're close to all-time highs. If you're being honest with yourself, shorting all-time highs is always a really risky endeavor. But as you can see, this is a really interesting strategy. Let me just go through and see if I can find any trades that I've missed recently. A lot of the time when you see these little V shapes to the downside, they do come back up and work really well. There's even just one here in this tiny amount of structure here. Generally speaking, I want to take fair value gaps that are about 5 points or more. Otherwise, they're not very big, but you can see this one probably would have worked. Accumulation, manipulation down, sweeping out some liquidity, distribution back up. You could have entered here, targeted a 1-for-1. I can actually drag my thing out. Come on. Honestly, this magnet tool does my head in sometimes. You can see we just about would have hit a 1-for-1 here probably before coming back down. It's actually never closed below, so you probably would have eventually gone and hit your take profit. I probably wouldn't have obviously been trading in Friday PM because it does tend to be pretty bad. But this would have pretty much, in my opinion, gone up and hit a 1-for-1. I probably just would have, when I saw this reaction, probably just got out of break even, to be fair. But there are lots and lots of examples recently of this strategy working really well. There's a pretty good one here. If you take a look at the chart, I think this probably would have been, let me just circle this so I can see, there probably would have been a better entry on this. Let me see if we've got a 5 minute here. Yeah, I think this 5 minute probably would have been the entry, but you still could have took this on the 1 minute. You can see here we've obviously we've had a New York Open, it's pumped up massively, so you're looking for a retrace to potentially get in for a long. You can see we came up and then we started to accumulate, go sideways. We came down, swept out some levels of liquidity here, swept down and actually swept this low here as well. Started to bounce out of this fair value gap to the left as well, and then you can see there's actually a reasonably good fair value gap here that you could have taken. Obviously it didn't reverse back around in 5, 6, 7, 8 candles like I would usually want, but this would have obviously worked really nicely back to the high. Obviously you would have took half off at a 1-to-1, and then you would have almost got stopped at break even here. You might have actually, depending on your broker, you might have got stopped at break even, but if you didn't get stopped at break even, I probably would have had a runner up to here and then a runner up to this high. This would have been a great trade if you'd have stayed in it. This was on Friday. As you can see, you could have got a nice 1-to-6 or 1-to-7 if you held the whole position, but obviously taking half off at 1-to-1, half off here and half off there, probably about a 1-to-3, 1-to-4 trade overall. Really, really nice one though, and very clean and very obvious. That looks like a really nice trade there. Have we got anything else here? I mean, you could have potentially took this one here, which was a bit of an FU long, where basically you take a long that's really high in premium. As you can see, after this massive pump, taking a long here is pretty risky, obviously, because you don't know how much you're going to retrace, but you could have taken this. You can see we're kind of grinding to the upside. We finally get a bit of a sweep of this LR being formed below. And then we've got a little bit of a gap here that you could have taken, but too small for me to think that this is significant. It's only like 3 points or 4 points. You could have potentially taken it, but overall not the kind of thing I'd be taking. But generally speaking, you do get these trades all the damn time on NQ. There's a pretty good V shape here, as you can see. If I can actually get my chart to behave. Got a really obvious level of liquidity here. A really obvious area of liquidity down here. There's even a nice little swing low here that you could come and target. You can see there's a nice little accumulation, manipulation, and then distribution back up. Does this have a obvious 2 minute gap here that we could take? Yeah, I think you probably could have taken this 2 minute here. This would have worked out, as you can see. Got those liquidity sweeps to the left. Pretty obvious fair value gap here, as you can see, between these two levels in price. The close above, targeting a 1-for-1. Obviously this came up and got hit in the space of about 10 minutes. Go break even on the rest, targeting runners up through the structure. I probably would have taken, as I say, one about halfway up the V shape and then one at the high. You can see this high would have got a hit. This would have been a good trade as well, around a 1-to-3, or probably like a 1.15 to 1 if you take half off and then half off again. Another really good solid trade. You can see nice momentum back to the upside is what you're looking for as well. But these kinds of trades, I mean, they're happening constantly, to be honest. You can see here, there's one here as well. After this really strange session that we had on Thursday, New York Open, we did eventually come down after sweeping out tons of liquidity. Let me just remove my previous drawings. A clean level of liquidity swept here, an obvious level here, and then we came all the way down to this level. Massive retrace, around 50% of this big move here, as you can see, if you look at Fibonacci levels. And then we're obviously looking for an entry to the back to the upside, back towards all-time highs again. Very nice, obvious fair value gap here again, as you can see. We obviously closed above here, so I would have entered, targeting the 1-for-1. This one took a little while to play out. You can see the momentum here wasn't great. It took about half an hour for us to start moving up, but you can see back testing this fair value gap. We never even closed back inside the fair value gap, which I think says a lot about the strength of this area here, especially after such a big drop. You're probably expecting a retrace. And you can see then we started to move up nicely. We obviously hit the 1-for-1. Let me just remove these liquidity sweeps now that you can actually see what's going on. You can see this level here. Came up, hit the 1-for-1, go break even on the rest, target about halfway up the V shape for your next target, probably somewhere here. And then the final TP is obviously up at the high. This one would have taken until the next day to play out. As you can see, going into the changeover for the next day. I can't hold overnight on my futures account, so I would have just closed the other half of the position here. So this would have been around a 1 to 2 hour as well. Really, really good trade. I'll probably leave it there because you can see that they're just basically limitless opportunities in the market. And I think you're starting to get the idea. So I'll leave it here, guys. Please do like and subscribe and leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts down below on the strategy. Please go back test this yourself. Leave a comment and let me know if you're having any success with it yourself. And go watch my other videos if you want more information about the strategy and also more examples of how I've been trading it recently. This works on NQ and on gold as well. And if you do want to get signals or alerts for this, you can get them in the description below. Join the private Discord. See you next one.